So I was saying that, yes, I got educated at George Mason University. I did government international politics, which was basically Mason's equivalent of pre-law, because I thought, well, that's what I'll do. I'm not going to go after my dream of acting. So I worked in New York for a little bit. And what I was doing was I was hustling hard. I did 4 p.m. to midnight at this law firm. And then during the day, I was trying to get auditions on my own, trying to land an agent and all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I landed an agent and I booked my first TV role. I did a couple off-Broadway plays. And from there, I was like, well, I can't do both. I can't have two careers technically. So I let go of my cushy job in the law firm. And I did the typical actor thing where I became like a personal trainer. I was a tutor. I worked in a restaurant. I did all the things to be able to keep it going, keep the dream alive, basically.
So there's two parts that I want to ask. One, I will ask after the first question. The first question is, at what age, if you remember, do you remember saying to yourself, I wish I could just be an actress for my career? Do you remember a certain point in time, or were you literally, as a child, from all you can remember, you wanted this to be your dream?
Yeah, it was from a child because I remember like when we would talk about like as kids or when you start growing up, you're a teenager, like everybody likes to talk about their, weddings or whatever they're going to do. And I remember I was always like, yeah. And when I win the Oscar, this is who I'm going to take. And this is what I'm going to say in my speech. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
of course everybody wants healthy relationships, but I've always been really focused on those career goals that I want and aspirations.
Yeah.
So that's what I remember. Yeah. From a very young age, I was like, I'm going to be on stage. So.
And like, what was the catalyst of that dream? Like, did you have people that you looked up to, and you were like, "That's who I want to be like when I grow up," or was it just innately inside of you that you just wanted to act and dance and sing and everything else that you could imagine?
It's a really good question. I feel like I don't think there was one person I looked at. I mean, over the years, you start looking up to people and you're like, oh, I love this person's style. I love that acting. I love the way they are in these films, the parts they take. But like, I just remember watching sitcoms, watching Saturday Night Live with my parents. And then also, I have a very vivid memory. I was like 6 or 7. And there was a little mayhem going on around me. And I was watching The Godfather on TV. And I was enthralled with what was happening on screen. I don't know why, as a 7-year-old, I was allowed to watch The Godfather. But this like scene of when Sonny gets shot up in the booth, if anyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
I was just watching all of that, and I was just like, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to be that. I want to be on screen doing those kinds of things. So all those things combined, plus being able to do theater when I was younger and feeling that like rush when you make people laugh and you do things live, all of that kind of it went inside of my soul, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
So with all due respect and love for your family, I feel like that there's a child psychologist out there that's shaking their head that you were traumatized at the age of 7 watching Godfather. But I'm glad that it worked out for you.
Somehow I knew that this was not real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. So you knew it was a job, career.
It's make believe. It's pretend. Yeah.
So now that you mentioned your parents and family, even though I don't know them too well in person, throughout the years, what I've loved about you is, and your whole family, is just how close knit you are, and on top of that, how it's clear that this humor that you have inside of you, that you've always had in front of you, and this bubbly personality, it's all a family affair, and like that's kind of been beautiful. So speak to the family dynamic that you've had that most likely attributed to the path that you took, and also probably the support that you got for them to take you to where you are now.
Yeah. I will say that I feel like anyone who grows up Iranian, we are very used to roasting each other. Like that's how we all maintain our closeness. Definitely in my family and circle of friends, like we have a circle of friends just like you do, where our parents were all friends before we were even born. So everybody grew up together. Those are your cousins and stuff. So in this circle, it was constant ribbing and making people laugh. And even when I would visit Iran, like that's how my family is in general, whether it's my mom's side or my dad's side, like teasing is in our culture. That's how you show your bond with someone and show that you're comfortable with them. Like
Yeah.
if I'm very polite and like, oh yes, nice to meet you, that probably means I'm not comfortable with you and we're not that cool. But if
Yeah.
we're teasing each other and I was talking about your beer or whatever, that means we're cool. We're on a different level. And
Right.
so I feel like that was kind of instilled in me from a young age. And my family's always been extremely loving and they want to support me in whatever I do. But I will say from the beginning, like my parents weren't thrilled that I wanted to go into entertainment as a career path at all. And when you grow up, you understand where they're coming from. You know, they were immigrants in this country. They built themselves up from coming here with virtually nothing, from being very young, and they just don't want to see their child have to go through hardships. And they're like, you have your degree, why are you choosing to struggle? You know, so
Yeah.
I get it from their point of view. When you're younger, you're like, oh my God, just support me, guys, you know, but you understand where they're coming from. So I feel like they all kind of came around more and more as I worked more, which is
Yeah.
nice. I kind of like see my passion now. Before it was like, okay, we support you, but also if you wanted to go back to law, that's a great thing to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And so, like, what was the turning point, in your opinion, where you're like, you know what, screw law, screw the cushy job that you're speaking of, I'm going all in? And, like, was there a defining moment that kind of made you go all in and be like, forget everything else?
I think once I got my first couple gigs, and just that feeling that you get that you're happy to do it, you're proud that you're doing it, and you get a taste of what it could be like if you keep working. And also coming to the conclusion that I can't work 4 to midnight and also be doing all this during the day. I'll pass out. I'll die. I might
Yeah.
die. It's like I literally can't stay awake for these many hours and have that much energy. So it just became a choice. And I usually don't shy away from the scary choice. I do it even if it causes anxiety or fear. And I'm like, you know what? It'll work out somehow. So I don't think there was a defining moment, but those little moments along the way of getting little jobs here and there, that's what started me on the path of being like, yeah, forget everything else.
Yeah, and like, and I know that although you had an amazing year, and we'll definitely talk about Persia's Got Talent. I do know that the grind really never stops in this industry, and even the other night you were like, I'm getting ready for an audition. So I understand that it's like constant proving yourself and constantly trying to level up until you hopefully one day do have that Oscar that you do get to look back and be like, wow, all of that work, Yeah, see, you've already practiced it. So my what I would love to do is kind of spend a few minutes and talk to you about how you give yourself the motivation and the perseverance to kind of like fight through those shitty days, the ones that you get rejected from an audition or the one that you get super excited for, and just in general, like the kind of advice that you could give to others that are going down your path, that are 10 years behind you, 15 years behind you. Like, just keep it real, keep it raw, and like, tell us what you've been doing to kind of get yourself up every day and kind of take on the challenges of this career.
For sure. I can start with how I get myself prepared in the day, as in I start every morning with gratitude of all the things that I have. And to recognize that where I am right now is where I dreamed of being 5 years ago, and to be really thankful for that, even though I don't have the Oscar and I don't have my own TV show, but there's a lot of things I'm doing. And so be thankful for what you have, because you're building on the other things. Having those days where, so I was actually talking about this with an actor friend yesterday. There's this thing when you are close to booking a role, they pin you. It's called a pin. That means it's probably down between you and one other person, and they want to make sure your schedule's clear and you might get the part, but it might go to the other person, right? So that's happened to me a lot of times. And the way that you can look at it two ways. You can look at it like, God damn it, I didn't get it again. Or I try to look at it the other way, which is, but look how close you got, which means you're doing something right. Sometimes you're like, well, I'm just like a no talent piece of shit, or you can look at it the other way, where it's like, but you got so close.
Yeah.
So I try as much as I can to look at it the other way, which is you're getting closer and closer, and that kind of motivates you. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention my friends and my family, because I have, thank God, like Bazan Matafta, I've had a really good let me knock on wood, hold on. Really good network of friends and family that have always kept me motivated with their words, with their actions, with the pep talks that I need on the times where I like feel really down about something, or if I didn't book something and I was so close to it. And I would not have been able to get here without all of them too. So that's that. And what was the other part of your question?
Well, I mean, like, I guess what type of advice that you would have for others that are going down your path, like especially the ones that were where you were in New York, where you were doing the 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. and then you're like, never mind, I'm going all in. Like, what can you tell them to make sure that they're going down the right path?
I would say do it, regardless if it's acting, or it's you want to go to med school, you want to go to grad school, you want to be a painter, whatever it is. Like, do the thing. Like, don't listen to anybody, because I will say the last 2 years where I canceled all the outside noise and I did what I wanted to do and I put out the art I wanted to do and I wrote my own projects and I did my own material and I just kept putting things out on the internet. And I was like, something will give, something will give. That's when I started getting more work, because I was being myself. I wasn't trying to be that type or this type or that person or follow this person's path. I focused on myself, how I could make myself better, how I can hone in on my own skills and talent and use that to my advantage. And I want to say to people, like, there's only one of you. So even if you don't have the other things that other people have, they don't have what you have. So you need to figure out what that thing is that you have that sets you apart from everybody else. What makes you unique? What can you bring to the table? And hone in on that and make it as good as you can. And the people and the right opportunities will eventually come to you. You just have to believe it. Although you can't sit there and be like, I'm positive and it'll all come and do nothing about it. You need to put the effort into it. And then if you're between two worlds, I will say there will come a point where you're going to have to make that leap of faith and like, okay, well, I'm going to let go of this cushy thing and I'm going to go totally towards this and I'll just have to figure it out. And that quote that everyone says where it's like very cliche and can be cheesy, like leap and the net will appear. It's true though. It's a cliche for a reason. So if you really believe in that thing that you want, you can't half-ass it. You have to go after it. For me, if I can look back and say anything, it was like I should have moved to LA sooner. Although everything happens the way it does for its own reason, so that's fine. But that's my way of being like, when you know that you want to do that thing, go after it like 100%. Don't wait for anything else, and and anyone that tells you otherwise, know that they're probably talking to you on their own fears and insecurities, and you should still do the thing. You know what I mean?
I love that. So let me ask you, do you remember at any point where you were like about to give up?
Yeah.
Can you take us back to that day?
Yeah. There were like a couple times where probably I was with somebody. This is another thing. It's very important on who you have a relationship with, romantic or other, and friendships too. But like specifically this one was because my friendships, nobody in my friend circle ever discouraged me from going after my dream. But in romantic relationships, I was discouraged a couple of times. And it was like, I'll never forget one person was like, why can't you just be happy staying at home? Why can't you just be happy being a wife? And why can't you just be happy being a mom? And I was like, I've never been a wife and a mom, but I know that like, I want more than that. And there's nothing wrong with being a wife and mom and not doing anything else. But for me personally, my dream was, but I want to work. I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I want to be able to like say that I went after my dream and I gave it my all, or else I'll always wonder. The worst thing is to look back and be like, well, what if I did do? What if I did move? You know? Yeah. So there were a couple of times where when I was younger and that happened, I was like, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm dreaming too big. Maybe this is all, it's never going to happen. Maybe I should quit, you know? And I'm really glad that I did it. As much as it hurt back then and it was like painful, I'm really glad that I kept going. And maybe there was like a few years ago, I can't remember the exact incident, but it was something similar where it was like, you just keep getting so close and you don't book it. And you're like, maybe I'm just bad. It's like that lyric from Kanye West where he says, are all these people really that much better than me? You know, you start thinking like, maybe I'm just not good, you know? But I picked myself up, and with the help of, again, friends and family encouraging me, I kept going. Yeah.
Awesome, people. I appreciate you watching this segment. To watch the full video, which you should, please click up here. And then if you want to join our text community, the number is right about here. And even though you don't need no reminders and you've heard it a billion times, if you like the video, subscribe, hit the little ring of ding-a-ding-ding bell so you can be notified for our next video. Thank you so much and appreciate you watching. Awesome, people.